The glow of my computer screen illuminated the dim room, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. It was a Friday night, and I had just finished a long week of mundane office work, seeking an escape from reality. I found myself wandering deeper into the digital underbelly of the internet, the dark web. I had heard whispers about its hidden corners, where anything could be bought or sold, but nothing could prepare me for what I was about to discover. I had always been intrigued by the macabre. The stories of people who ventured into this shadowy realm filled with illegal trades and unspeakable horrors fascinated me. It was a world where anonymity reigned supreme and morality faded into obscurity. With a few clicks, I donned my digital mask, VPN activated, Tor browser opened, and entered a realm that felt both thrilling and terrifying. As I navigated through various forums and marketplaces, I stumbled upon a link labeled Memoria Auctions. My heart raced at the thought of what it could entail. Memories? What kind of memories? The curiosity gnawed at me, compelling me to click. The page loaded slowly, revealing a dark interface adorned with cryptic symbols and unsettling imagery. A countdown timer ticked ominously at the top of the screen, indicating that an auction was about to begin. My pulse quickened as I read through the descriptions of memories being sold, each one more bizarre than the last. There were memories of first loves, traumatic events, and even snippets of someone's final moments before death. Each memory came with a price tag that ranged from a few hundred to several $1,000s. I leaned closer to the screen, captivated by the idea that someone could own another person's experiences. It felt wrong, deeply wrong, but also irresistibly fascinating. I scrolled down to see live bids being placed in real time. Each time someone bid, a notification would flash across the screen, accompanied by a chilling sound that echoed in my ears. One memory caught my eye, The Last Breath. The description was hauntingly vague. Experience the moment before life fades away. The current bid was at $5,000 and climbing rapidly. I felt an odd mixture of dread and intrigue wash over me. Who would want to buy such a thing? What kind of person would willingly relive someone else's final moments? As I continued to watch, I noticed that some bidders were using pseudonyms like Ghostseeker and Memory Thief. Their usernames sent shivers down my spine. They felt like characters from a horror novel rather than real people. Yet here they were, participating in this grotesque marketplace as if it were entirely normal. Suddenly, a chat window popped up on the side of my screen. It was labeled Live Discussion. Curious, I clicked on it. The comments flew by rapidly. User 1, I can't believe they're selling this stuff. Who would actually buy it? User 2, you'd be surprised. Some people crave experiences they never had. User 3, I'm bidding on The Last Breath, can't wait to feel what it's like. A chill crept down my spine as I read those words. What kind of person craved such darkness? My rational mind screamed at me to close the browser and step away from this madness, but my curiosity held me captive. Then came a message that made my blood run cold. Welcome to Memoria Auctions. Are you ready to bid on your first memory? It was from an anonymous user, with no profile picture, just an empty silhouette. My heart raced as I realized that somehow they knew I was watching. I hesitated for a moment before typing back, what are these memories? Are they real? The response came almost instantly, real enough for those who dare to own them. My fingers trembled over the keyboard as I contemplated my next move. Should I engage further? Was this all just an elaborate hoax designed to lure unsuspecting souls into their web? Yet something deep within me urged me to stay. Perhaps it was the thrill of danger, or simply an insatiable curiosity. As I watched the auction unfold, I felt an overwhelming sense of dread mixed with excitement. The countdown timer continued its relentless march toward zero, and with each passing second, my heart pounded louder in my chest. What awaited me on the other side of this digital abyss? Would I emerge unscathed, or would I find myself ensnared in something far more sinister than I could ever imagine? With one last glance at the screen and a deep breath to steady myself, I made my decision. I would delve deeper into this dark world and uncover its secrets, no matter what horrors lay ahead. This segment sets up an intriguing premise while building suspense and curiosity for what will follow in subsequent segments. Let me know if you need any further assistance or additional segments. The countdown clock ticked down to zero, and a chilling chime echoed through my speakers. The auction had begun. My heart raced as I watched the screen, captivated by the chaotic energy in the chat room. Bidders were throwing out numbers like confetti, each one more outrageous than the last. The memory of The Last Breath was now sitting at $10,000, and I could feel the tension mounting with each bid. Who are these people, I wondered. What drives them to buy memories? As I scrolled through the chat, I noticed a new message from the anonymous user who had contacted me earlier. Get ready for a wild ride. You won't want to miss what's coming next. A shiver ran down my spine. I felt like a moth drawn to a flame, unable to resist the allure of this dark world. I glanced at my reflection in the screen. My wide eyes and pale face stared back at me, a stark reminder of how far I had strayed from reality. Suddenly, the auctioneer's voice boomed through my speakers, cutting through my thoughts. He had a deep, gravelly tone that sent chills down my spine. Welcome, bidders. Tonight we have something truly special for you. Prepare yourselves for an experience unlike any other. The first item up for bid was the Day of Reckoning, a memory described as the moment when everything changed. The auctioneer described it as a traumatic experience, one that would allow the buyer to relive a pivotal moment in someone's life, a moment filled with fear, regret, and revelation. Bids began pouring in rapidly. $2,000, shouted one user. $5,000, countered another. I watched in disbelief as people fought over someone's pain as if it were a rare artifact. It was surreal and horrifying all at once. As the bidding continued, I felt an inexplicable urge to participate. What would it be like to own a memory? To feel someone else's emotions coursing through me? The thought was intoxicating and terrifying. Then came a message from Ghost Seeker. I'm going to win this one. Can't wait to see what it feels like. The excitement in his message was palpable, but it only deepened my unease. The auctioneer's voice broke through my thoughts again. And sold. To Ghost Seeker for $10,000. Congratulations. You will receive access to your memory shortly. A wave of nausea washed over me as I processed what had just happened. Someone had just purchased another person's trauma for 10 grand. My mind raced with questions. What happens next? How do they access these memories? And most importantly, what kind of person would want to relive such pain? Just then, another memory came up for bidding. The Last Goodbye. It was described as an emotional farewell between lovers, a bittersweet moment filled with love and loss. The current bid started at $1,000 and quickly escalated as bidders fought for their chance to experience this intimate moment. I felt an odd pull toward this memory. Perhaps it was the idea of love that drew me, and perhaps it was just sheer curiosity about what it felt like to say goodbye in such a profound way. As the bids climbed higher, I found myself typing out a message: what happens after you win? Almost immediately, I received a response from Memory Thief. You'll see. But be careful what you wish for. My heart raced at their cryptic reply. The auctioneer announced that The Last Goodbye had sold for $8,000 to a user named Heartbreaker. A sense of dread settled over me as I realized that these memories were not just experiences, they were pieces of someone's soul being traded like commodities. Then came an announcement that made my blood run cold. Next up is the moment of truth. This memory is said to reveal secrets that can shatter lives. The description sent chills down my spine. This wasn't just about reliving experiences, it was about uncovering hidden truths that could haunt someone forever. As bids soared into the thousands again, I felt an overwhelming urge to leave this place behind. But before I could gather my thoughts and close the browser window, another message flashed across my screen from that same anonymous user. Are you ready to bid? You don't want to miss out on this one. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as panic surged within me. Was I really considering bidding on something so dark? The temptation was strong after all. This was an opportunity to explore emotions and experiences beyond my comprehension. As if sensing my hesitation, Ghost Seeker chimed in again. Don't be scared. It's just memories. What's life without a little risk? His enthusiasm felt almost manic, a desperate grasping at something intangible. With every passing second, I felt myself being pulled deeper into this abyss of human experience and suffering. The auctioneer's voice rang out again. And sold. To Memory Thief for $12,000. The name sent another shiver down my spine. There was something unsettling about how easily these memories were being bought and sold. Finally, unable to resist any longer, I typed out a bid on the moment of truth. My heart raced as I pressed enter, the thrill of participating mixed with an overwhelming sense of dread. $1,000, I typed quickly. The chat exploded with reactions, some congratulatory, others mocking me for stepping into such dark waters. But before I could process what I'd done or back out, the auctioneer's voice boomed once more, and we have our first bidder. Welcome. In that moment, as excitement coursed through me alongside fear, I realized there was no turning back. Whatever awaited me on this twisted path could change everything, or perhaps even cost me my sanity. This second segment builds upon the tension established earlier while introducing new elements and characters that enhance the story's depth. Let me know if you need further assistance or additional segments. The moment I placed my bid, a rush of adrenaline surged through me. I had crossed an invisible line, stepping deeper into a world that felt increasingly surreal and terrifying. The chat room erupted with comments, some congratulating me, while others mocked my decision. User 1, what a rookie move. User 2, you'll regret this. But I couldn't back down now. The thrill of participating in something so forbidden was intoxicating. I watched as the moment of truth continued to attract bids, each one higher than the last. My heart raced as I realized that I was now part of this grotesque game. The auctioneer's voice cut through the chaos. We have a new high bid. $15,000 from Memory Thief. Can anyone top that? My mind raced with thoughts. What was I doing? Why did I feel so compelled to be part of this? It was as if the digital world had wrapped its tendrils around me, pulling me deeper into its dark embrace. I tried to shake off the feeling, but it clung to me like a shadow. Suddenly, a private message popped up on my screen from Ghost Seeker, you're in over your head. Get out while you can. His warning sent a jolt of fear through me. Was he trying to help, or was this just another mind game? Before I could respond, the auctioneer announced that the bidding for the moment of truth would close in just 5 minutes. Panic set in as I realized that if I wanted to win this memory, I would have to act fast. My fingers hovered over the keyboard as I contemplated my next move. The chat was buzzing with excitement and anxiety. Bidders were throwing out numbers like they were nothing. $18,000, $20,000 each bid felt like a punch to my gut. What kind of person spends that much money on someone else's pain? My stomach churned at the thought. Then came another message from Memory Thief, you think you know pain? Just wait until you experience this memory. It was taunting and ominous, and it sent another wave of dread crashing over me. With only a few minutes left in the auction, I made a decision. $22,000, I typed quickly, my heart pounding in my chest as I hit enter. The chat erupted once more. User 3, whoa. Big spender. User 1, you're insane. But all I could focus on was the auctioneer's voice announcing my bid. We have a new high bidder. $22,000 from our brave newcomer. Can anyone top that? A sense of exhilaration washed over me, mixed with an undercurrent of fear. What had I just done? The countdown timer ticked down relentlessly. 3 minutes left. As the seconds slipped away, I felt an overwhelming urge to pull back to escape this nightmare before it consumed me whole. But then another message from Ghost Seeker appeared. You can't unsee what you're about to see. Just remember that. His words echoed in my mind as the timer reached 2 minutes. My heart raced. What awaited me on the other side? Would this memory haunt me forever? Suddenly, Memory Thief entered the fray again. $25,000. The bid flashed across my screen like a lightning bolt, cutting through my resolve. Anger bubbled up inside me. How dare he challenge me like this? Without thinking, I typed out my response, $30,000. The chat exploded with reactions once more. User 2, this is getting ridiculous. User 3, someone stop him. But there was no stopping now. It felt like a twisted game of chicken where only one person could emerge victorious. The auctioneer's voice rang out again. We have a new high bid at $30,000. Will anyone dare to challenge? I could feel my palms sweating as the timer ticked down to 1 minute. My mind raced with thoughts of what would happen next. Would I really experience someone else's memories? What if they were too much to bear? Then came another chilling message from Memory Thief, you'll pay for this. I stared at the screen in disbelief. Was he threatening me? Or was it just another ploy to intimidate me into backing down? The tension in the chat room was palpable. Everyone seemed to be holding their breath as we approached the final moments of the auction. 30 seconds left, shouted the auctioneer. My heart pounded louder than ever as anticipation hung thick in the air. In those final seconds, something shifted within me, a realization that perhaps I had gone too far. But before I could reconsider my actions, Memory Thief struck again, $35,000. A gasp echoed through the chat room as his bid flashed across my screen like a death knell. Rage surged through me. How dare he take this from me, after all I had invested emotionally and financially? In a moment of reckless abandon fueled by adrenaline and anger, I typed furiously, $40,000. The chat erupted into chaos. A flurry of messages flew by as users reacted to my outrageous bid. But all I could hear was the auctioneer's voice ringing in my ears. We have a new high bidder at $40,000. Will anyone dare challenge? And then it happened, the countdown timer reached 0. Sold. To our brave newcomer for $40,000, the auctioneer's voice boomed triumphantly. A wave of mixed emotions washed over me, elation mingled with dread as reality began to sink in. What had I just done? What kind of memory awaited me on the other side? As congratulatory messages flooded in from users who had witnessed my victory, an unsettling feeling settled deep within me, a gnawing sense that perhaps some doors should never be opened. And then came another private message from Memory Thief, "You'll regret this." Before I could respond or process what had just happened fully, another notification popped up on my screen, a link labeled "Access Your Memory." My heart raced as dread pooled in my stomach. This was it, the moment where curiosity met consequence. With trembling fingers and an uneasy heart, I clicked on the link. This third segment intensifies the tension and stakes involved in the auction while exploring themes of curiosity and consequence. Let me know if you need further assistance or additional segments. As I clicked on the link labeled "Access Your Memory," a sense of foreboding washed over me. The screen flickered, and I was greeted by a loading animation that felt like an eternity. My heart raced as I realized I was about to step into someone else's life, to experience their emotions, their pain, and perhaps their darkest secrets. The screen finally settled, revealing a stark white interface with a single button that read "Begin." I hesitated for a moment, my finger hovering over the mouse. What if this memory was too much to bear? What if it changed me in ways I couldn't comprehend? But curiosity clawed at me, urging me to proceed. With a deep breath, I clicked "Begin." Suddenly, the world around me dissolved into darkness. I felt a strange sensation wash over me, as if I were being pulled through a tunnel of swirling colors and sounds. My body tingled with electricity, and for a brief moment I lost all sense of self. Then, just as suddenly as it began, the darkness faded away. I found myself standing in a dimly lit room that felt both familiar and foreign. The air was thick with tension, and I could hear muffled voices coming from somewhere nearby. As I turned to look around, my heart sank. I was witnessing a scene from someone else's life. In front of me stood a young woman named Clara. She looked distraught, her eyes red from crying. She was pacing back and forth in what appeared to be her living room, clutching her phone tightly in her hand. My heart raced as I realized that I was experiencing her memory firsthand. "Please pick up," she muttered under her breath, glancing at the phone screen repeatedly. It was clear she was waiting for someone important. I felt an overwhelming wave of emotion wash over me. Clara's anxiety seeped into my very being. It was surreal how vividly I could feel her fear and desperation. The walls of the room seemed to close in around me as I absorbed her turmoil. Suddenly the phone rang. Clara jumped at the sound, her face lighting up with hope before quickly falling back into despair as she saw who was calling. It was not the person she wanted to hear from. "Why won't you answer me?" she cried out, her voice cracking with emotion. "I need you. Please." The scene shifted abruptly. Now I was sitting in a car with Clara as she drove down a dark road. The headlights illuminated the path ahead, but did little to chase away the shadows that loomed in her mind. Her thoughts were racing. Memories of happier times interspersed with moments of heartbreak flooded my consciousness like a tidal wave. I could feel Clara's heartache, the weight of unspoken words pressed heavily on her chest. She was grappling with something profound, a betrayal that had shattered her trust and left her feeling utterly alone. "Why did you do this to me?" she whispered to herself, tears streaming down her face as she gripped the steering wheel tightly. Then came a flash, a memory within a memory of Clara laughing with someone who looked strikingly familiar. It was a man named Jake, someone who had once brought joy into her life but had now become the source of her pain. Their laughter echoed in my mind like a haunting melody that contrasted sharply with Clara's current despair. Suddenly, the scene shifted again. Now Clara stood outside a small cafe where they used to meet, a place filled with memories, both sweet and bitter. She leaned against the wall, staring at the ground as if searching for answers among the cracks in the pavement. "Why did you leave?" she cried out into the emptiness around her. "I thought we had something real." The emotions were overwhelming. It felt as if Clara's grief had become my own. I could feel every pang of heartbreak coursing through my veins, every moment of doubt and betrayal etched into my soul. Then came another shift. The scene transformed into an argument between Clara and Jake that played out like a tragic play before my eyes. They were standing in his apartment, voices raised in anger as accusations flew back and forth like arrows. "I can't believe you would do this," Clara shouted, hurt radiating from every word. "I didn't mean for it to happen," Jake replied defensively, his voice laced with regret but also frustration. "You don't get to say that. You broke my heart." Clara's voice cracked as tears streamed down her cheeks. As their argument escalated, I felt myself being pulled deeper into their conflict. Each word exchanged felt like daggers piercing my heart. The intensity of their emotions enveloped me. It was suffocating yet compelling. And then it happened, a moment that shattered everything. Clara reached for Jake's arm in desperation, pleading for him to understand her pain. But he shrugged her off violently, his expression hardening as he turned away from her. "Maybe we weren't meant to be," he said coldly before walking out of the room. In that instant, everything changed. Clara crumpled to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably as despair consumed her. My own heart felt like it was breaking alongside hers. I couldn't bear witness to this pain any longer. Suddenly, everything went black again, the world around me fading into nothingness before re-emerging in another scene altogether. Clara sitting alone on her bed, surrounded by remnants of their relationship, photos scattered across the floor, and memories hanging heavy in the air like ghosts refusing to leave. I could feel her loneliness wrapping around me like an icy shroud. It was unbearable. She picked up one of the photos, a snapshot of happier times, and held it close to her chest, as if trying to absorb its warmth more. "Why did you have to go?" she whispered into the silence, her voice barely audible above my own racing heartbeat. In that moment of raw vulnerability, something shifted within me, a realization that this experience wasn't just about reliving someone else's memories, it was about understanding their pain on an intimate level. But just as quickly as it began, everything dissolved again, the scenes flickering like an old film reel until they finally faded away completely. I found myself back in front of my computer screen, breathing heavily as reality crashed back down around me like a tidal wave. My heart raced wildly in my chest. Every emotion Clara had felt lingered within me like an echo refusing to fade away. What had I just experienced? Had I truly paid $40,000 to relive someone else's heartbreak? The weight of what I had done settled heavily on my shoulders, the thrill now replaced by an unsettling dread that gnawed at my insides. Then came another notification, a message from Memory Thief. "Welcome back. How does it feel?" My fingers trembled over the keyboard as I typed back, "What have you done?" But before I could send it or even process what had just happened fully, another message appeared on my screen. "You've only just begun." Panic surged through me as realization dawned. I hadn't just purchased a memory, I had opened Pandora's box without knowing what horrors lay inside. This fourth segment deepens the emotional impact of the story while exploring themes of heartbreak and empathy through Clara's memory. Let me know if you need further assistance or additional segments. My heart raced as I stared at the screen, the weight of Memory Thief's message pressing down on me like a lead blanket. "You've only just begun." What did that mean? What other memories awaited me? I felt a sickening churn in my stomach as I realized the true implications of what I had done. I quickly closed the chat window, desperate to escape the digital taunting. But as I sat there, breathless and shaken, another notification popped up. It was a link labeled "Your next memory awaits." My pulse quickened. Was this some kind of sick joke? Or was it a trap? Against my better judgment, I clicked on it. The screen flickered again, and I was plunged into darkness once more. This time, however, I felt a sense of dread creeping in, an ominous feeling that whatever lay ahead would be far worse than what I had already experienced. When the darkness faded, I found myself standing in a stark hospital room. The sterile smell of antiseptic filled the air, and the beeping of machines created an unsettling rhythm. A woman lay in a bed, pale and frail, her breathing shallow and labored. My heart sank as I recognized her. It was Clara again. But this time she was not alone. A figure stood beside her, the same man from her past, Jake. His face was etched with worry and guilt as he held Clara's hand tightly. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. "Please don't leave me," Clara whispered weakly, her voice barely audible. "I can't do this without you." Jake's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he leaned closer to her. "I'm here. I promise I won't go anywhere," but his voice trembled with uncertainty, and I could feel the tension radiating between them. In that moment, I understood I was witnessing not just Clara's memories, but also her deepest fears and regrets. The memory unfolded like a tragic play, flashes of their past together intermingled with this painful present moment. Suddenly, Clara's eyes fluttered open, and she looked directly at Jake with a mixture of love and despair. "You have to promise me something," she said, her voice growing stronger despite her condition. If anything happens to me." You have to live your life. Don't let my mistakes hold you back." Jake nodded vigorously, but his expression betrayed his fear. "Clara, don't talk like that. You're going to be okay. We'll get through this together." But Clara shook her head slowly, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You don't understand. I'm scared of what's coming." As they spoke, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over me. I could feel Clara's fear wrapping around my heart like a vice grip. It was suffocating and raw. The scene shifted again, this time showing flashes of their happier moments together, laughter shared over coffee, stolen kisses in the rain, dreams whispered under starlit skies. But those moments were overshadowed by the impending darkness that loomed over them like a storm cloud threatening to break. Jake's voice broke through my thoughts as he squeezed her hand tighter. "I can't lose you. You're my everything." The intensity of their emotions crashed over me like waves, fear mingled with love, regret intertwined with hope. It felt like being caught in a tempest where every emotion was amplified tenfold. I could hardly breathe under the weight of it all. Then came another shift. The scene morphed into a stark hospital corridor, where doctors were speaking in hushed tones outside Clara's room. Their words were muffled but carried an unmistakable heaviness that made my stomach drop. ... Not much time left. ... We've done everything we can." The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. Clara was dying. My heart raced as panic surged within me. How could this be happening? Why was I forced to witness such pain? Suddenly, everything went dark again, a void swallowing me whole before spitting me back out into another scene entirely. This time, I found myself standing at Clara's funeral, a somber gathering filled with mourners dressed in black. The atmosphere was heavy with grief. People whispered among themselves while others wept openly. I watched as Jake stood at the front of the crowd, his face contorted with anguish as he clutched a bouquet of flowers, white lilies that contrasted sharply against his dark clothing. He looked lost, adrift in a sea of sorrow that threatened to engulf him completely. "Why didn't I fight harder?" he murmured to himself, his voice barely audible above the quiet sobs surrounding him. "I should have done more." Tears streamed down my face as I felt his pain wash over me, an unbearable weight that threatened to crush my spirit. It was too much. I wanted to scream for him to wake up from this nightmare, to tell him that it wasn't too late. But before I could process any further thoughts or emotions, everything dissolved into darkness once more. When the light returned, I found myself back in front of my computer screen, shaking and gasping for breath as reality crashed back down around me like a tidal wave. My heart pounded violently in my chest. Every emotion Clara had felt lingered within me like an echo refusing to fade away. What had just happened? Had I truly paid $40,000 to relive someone else's heartbreak? The weight of what I had done settled heavily on my shoulders, the thrill now replaced by an unsettling dread that gnawed at my insides. Then came another notification, a message from Memory Thief. "Welcome back. How does it feel?" My fingers trembled over the keyboard as I typed back, "What have you done?" But before I could send it, or even process what had just happened fully, another message appeared on my screen. "You've only just begun." Panic surged through me as realization dawned. I hadn't just purchased a memory, I had opened Pandora's box without knowing what horrors lay inside. Suddenly, my phone buzzed beside me. A text from an unknown number lit up the screen. "You have one more memory waiting for you." My breath caught in my throat as dread pooled in my stomach. What did they want from me? What other horrors awaited? Before I could think further or act upon this new threat, another message appeared. "You can't escape what you've bought." The finality of those words sent chills down my spine as fear gripped me tightly, a cold hand squeezing around my heart. In that moment of realization, everything shifted within me. I understood now that curiosity had led me down this dark path where consequences loomed large and shadows whispered secrets best left buried. With trembling hands and a racing heart, I closed my laptop and took a step back from the screen, knowing full well that some doors should never be opened again. But deep down inside me lingered an unsettling truth. Once you've glimpsed into darkness, it never truly lets you go. This fifth segment wraps up your horror story by emphasizing themes of consequence and emotional turmoil while leaving readers with lingering questions about curiosity and its repercussions. If you need any further assistance or adjustments to the story, feel free to ask.